Good morning on what is a grey, overcast and slightly mild day. It is Saturday, the 11th of December. I am back in the reading nook with a big stack of parcels, a cat who's not ours on my lap, and of course a nice hot cup of tea. And the next parcel I'm going to unbox is this one. This one has come courtesy of Neve, so I want to thank her for providing me with this parcel to unbox. And it's come from drive-through because I can tell by the glue they have used, and it's really stuck down hard. I've literally had to tear this open. It took, yeah. So what we've got in here is that. You can read that. The Godskin and Mad Prax Sandheart Volume 4 by Jonathan Webb and Friends. So we pull this out, and this has come from the Johnstown Compendium, which is the basically the community content program for RuneQuest, 13th Age Glorantha, and basically Quest Worlds, formerly HeroQuest. Essentially, so that people who are fans of RuneQuest and Glorantha can create and publish their own content, and it's one of the most popular. I mean, apart from I would say obviously the DM's Guild for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, it is one of the most popular content programs on drive-through RPG. Certainly, it scores highly in the top 10 of all the basically community content published there, and this is just the latest edition. And this is actually, I gather, this is the last book in this series, which basically the Sandheart series. Now, the Sandheart series is set in Sun County, in sort of like in and around Prax. Basically in sort of like in the sort of like the Sun worshippers, the Yamalia worshippers area, basically near Parvis or around Prax, and you play members of the Sandheart militia, protecting the community, investigating mysteries and so on. And you are mostly the misfits, sort of like, you know, oh, what are we going to do with you? Well, go to that squad, out the way, and essentially the player characters make a name for themselves despite their reputations. Anyway, Sandheart Volume 4, 2 scenarios for RuneQuest Roleplaying in Glorantha, the Godskin Incident, okay, and the Mad Max Beyond Sundown. So, the Godskin Incident sees the Sandheart militia investigating murder and face down deadly rivals before launching a crusade that crosses Prax en route to a final confrontation. Okay, so this is by Jonathan Webb, illustrated by Mark Baldwin, Dario Carallo, and Christy Herbert. And then Mad Prax Beyond Sundown brings the Sandheart militia into an epic event of the early hero wars. Will this be Sun County's finest hour? Probably not, Ed. Written by Michael O'Brien, illustrated by Dario Carallo and Mark Baldwin. So here we go, let's have a look. It's actually a slimmer book than the previous entries in the series. So again, looking forward to getting into this at some point when I've got my own copy. Now, I've reviewed the first book in the series, or basically first 3 books in the series, so I'm looking forward to see how the authors bring it to a close. We open up, and essentially we have an illustration of the team behind this project, but done in the style as if they were characters in Glorantha themselves. I leave it up to you to identify who they are. Okay. And then we've got a list of the authors, the artists, the cartographers, basically everyone involved. And then we go into the first adventure, and delving into the background and detail. And the first piece of really good artwork, nice piece of artwork there, and this is going to be like this all the way through. Some of it will look familiar, basically potentially appeared elsewhere, but it's well used, nicely done, clean layout, cleanly laid out text, not too dense, so nice and easy to read. And I'm presuming that this is the premium version, because then we get into sort of like the first colour section, really, where we've got a decent piece of map taken from typical RuneQuest maps, and then the full colour artwork of an NPC. And then essentially the description, basically a decision tree, basically, organising essentially what happens when the characters do this action or that action. Some possible outcomes and so on that are discussed, and then we've got actually a decision tree too there, and then we've actually got an illustration. Essentially, this is where essentially the Eldrai army's last stand. So you are facing elves in the adventure. But this is not just done as a map, it's really done as a nice piece of illustration as well. It's really quite effective. That's really nicely done. It brings it alive, perhaps more than a straight sort of like, flat map would do. And we've got more decision trees. I won't show you those. And then they return to Sandheart. This is basically the problem is solved there. And then we get to part 2. Again, more great artwork. A lovely piece of basically of a rider and his animal, and basically the animal basically bring his neck to a head round and wanted to. So that's a bowler lizard ride. That's a bowler lizard rider guide. Sorry, that's a guide aboard her bowler lizard, and the bowler lizard is essentially giving her a hard time. I know how that feels, not because I've got a bowler lizard, because I've basically got a cat on my lap and who is, gave me a hard time this morning going, why aren't you paying me attention? But he has settled down. And again, nice piece of maps, basically taken from sort of like the archives for RuneQuest and Glorantha, and basically represented. Again, lovely pieces of artwork, and basically you've got distance of travel, and just sort of like, so you've got sort of like, somebody with a cart there travelling, and then just get the idea of the travelling. Essentially, here's a scene at the sort of like in between at the end of the day where everyone's put their saddles, hung their saddles up for the day, they're resting. And that's just incidental piece of artwork, but it gives feel and flavour of sort of like the setting. Essentially this is like a Wild West kind of setting. And then we have again, you've got an illustration of a town, and that'll be backed up by a map. So and then a later location. Again, doing the same kind of thing. You show that to the players, and they've got, okay, that's really interesting, and they really want to see what's there, explore it. It's intriguing. So yeah. Okay, and then we've got a big back at the end, of course, and handouts. So that actually is a handout. So it's not a spoiler as such. You've got handouts there as well, which you give to the players. So yeah, lots of sort of like actually quite detailed handouts. So you've got like basically the guide Sala, who's the bowler lizard rider. Basically there's a handout for her travel information, so the players can use that. And then we have statistics at the end for the Godskin incident. So there we go. Great artwork. Nice clear layout. I'm glad I got a chance to look at this, but I'll dig into it in future in a proper review in due course. Oh god, and I'm going to show you this. This is fantastic. This is a really fun piece of artwork. That's something I never expected to see. It is essentially a llama, a high llama with a chaos feature. who is known as Snappy for obvious reasons. So he has an increased bite attack. That's brilliant. I love it. That's really nice and inventive. I do like that. Okay, so then we get on to Mad Practice Beyond Sundown. And of course Beyond Sundown, because you've got your Mario worshippers, and it's not taking place in Sandheart, because then it would be Mad Practice Beyond Thunderdome. But you can see the joke there. So yeah, again, great artwork, nice pieces of action there, nice piece of being heroic. And then basically more artwork, another NPC. Nice bit of another NPC, basically a baboon one, and it's of course possible that you could actually have a baboon as an NPC, and then yeah, NPC or an even player character. So this one's about, it looks basically, there's a lot less, a lot more straightforward as presented as a scenario, and that's fine, because it's basically Godskin look more complex, and that's fine. Of the two, and we've got basically very different styles of artwork. And that to differentiate between the two scenarios, and essentially here we've got I'm presuming what looks like depicting an assault aboard a boat running up basically the anchor chain, ties in essentially with the River Cradle campaign. So yeah, and then of course we've got the NPCs there at the back. So yeah, this looks interesting. A couple of scenarios are always like worth looking at or adding to your campaign, or basically grabbing these essentially. But also, the thing is, this is worth grabbing essentially if you've got any of the other Sandheart books, because they will expand the campaign. There you've got basically a mini setting. And you can run a mini campaign like that. Here at the end we've got a diplomatic communique, and essentially here we've got essentially the appendices and basically a bit of afterwards from those involved in the books and the campaign. So then we have a final word from the author. And it tells you who these gentlemen are as well, if you didn't know. And of course, a bit of advertising for the first 3 Sandheart books, which are available on the Johnstown Compendium, and more advertising for books from essentially a lot of the same people involved, and that's fine. A lot of this is, there's a lot of really good content to add to your campaign. Really develop it, because essentially you can. There's a lot of content that you can actually just slot into your campaign and run it as well as your own scenarios. Anyway, so that's the Sandheart Volume 1, the Godskin and Mad Prax. 2 scenarios essentially to bring the campaign, Sandheart campaign, to a close for the now. Perhaps the author will be back with more adventures. That would be fun if he was, or someone else can go in there and work with him potentially. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click the like button down below. If you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you posting those, and I do take the time to read them and respond. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a package and a box, a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so, or of course accompanied by a cat who is not mine or ours, a nice hot cup of tea, then please do hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.